Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Young Actuaries Vodcast. I'm Garvin Tso, Data Actuary at Laneway Analytics. I'm also a member of the Young Actuaries Advisory Board. Today, I'm joined by Daniel Huang. Daniel is an actuary and executive manager at Quantium, who was also a senior data scientist at BCG Gamma. In this episode of the podcast, Daniel and I will discuss how young actuaries can explore changing industries, whether it's from traditional fields such as insurance or finance, to broader fields including data analytics. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, Gavin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I guess I'll start off with the elephant in the room. What made you want to change industry? Was it always part of the career plan? Like, tell us your story.
That's interesting. To be perfectly honest, I never had that plan of changing industry. I guess the primary motive for switching industry is there is just a broader set of really interesting problems to solve at that particular point in time when I sort of saw the other side of industry. And it happens to be opportunities across other industry where they need actuarial skill sets, I would say, where you can combine commercial and technical skill sets together to solve real world problem. So I guess those opportunities happened quite naturally, and once again, it's very exciting problems to solve. So I really didn't give much second thinking before deciding to switch.
Right. Was any part of you apprehensive about the process, like thinking that, oh, I'm not going to be an actuary anymore? Like, how do you deal with that?
Never really, actually. What I find is that that actuarial training, the actuarial brand has always been valuable. I guess outside of traditional insurance, or traditional field, when we talk about being an actuary, often you get two kind of responses. One is around, wow, I must be really smart and good at maths. It will be ideal for the problem we're trying to solve, right? And the second is very much around, why is an actuary here? Why even relevant? What I find is that, especially in my later years, when I'm sort of really able to uh, master or use my actuarial skills better in a sort of different, non-traditional setting, is people usually sort of in the end would agree that it has been a valuable addition, different perspective and lenses that add on to a solution to the problem they typically have. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's really interesting. So you mentioned that your mastery of certain actuarial skills that are very useful in non-actuarial roles. Can you expand on that a little bit, please? Like what exactly are these key actuarial skills that you found extremely useful in these in the new roles that you found?
Good. I mean, I guess like we've all been told at some point in time around key skill we have is the ability to analyze complex data to extract commercial insight and solve real world problem. I think as actuaries, I didn't think much about it. Thought it's no brainer. Obviously, we can do that. Anyone can do that. But in real world, what I found is that not so much. What I found is that at a high level, senior level, we often get sort of two different type of people. One is around the dreamers, who envision the future, in a way they're pushing the possibilities and I guess cutting edge. As a sort of, but things with them is they are not technical, right? They talk about data, talking about often like, can you use data to tell me this? Can you use data to solve that? It's never that simple, right? And the second sort of type of people, technical gurus. They know the latest, I guess, technology solutions. But once again, they don't focus on the commercial, I guess, commercial problems. Often they would give a solution that's really exciting. But when we sort of sit down and think about actually how do we use it, there's actually very little venues you can use it to create value. So I think number one key skill set is really around that, being able to bridge the two side and sort of want to leverage the technical skill set or working with very technical people to really sort of guide them or sort of steer the direction of the overall, I guess, the project or I guess the strategy, and sort of really make really good use out of that data asset that they have or we have, analyze the complex data to sort of really very quickly get to the so what, the commercial insights. I guess that's sort of key skill set number one. And I guess skill set number two is sort of more around the technical side of things. is of what I find is around actuaries is very good at turning a pure technical solution into something that's critical in running a business. You think about sort of in the GI world, GI pricing. If we get that wrong, the insurance company's profitability would be hit hard. I guess in the reserving world, once again, we're not delivering a piece of model, we're delivering recommendations and final set of solutions that insurance company would use to set their reserves. Once again, if you get that wrong, there's huge consequences. Not a lot of technical people have that experience, and they don't think or deliver solution with that same lens on. So I guess the second sort of skill set is very much around how do we deliver a technical solution that actually makes a real impact, and that's critical for a business. And I find that skill set incredibly powerful. So in way, sort of combining two skill set together, especially because now in my current role, turns out I find it to be incredibly useful and powerful, especially in a new industry and where I don't have that years or even decades of experience to rely on.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that insight. Now, it sounded like your switch, is characterized as, the opportunity presented itself and you just went for it. But I'm sure it's not just that easy, that there's definitely, other hurdles and challenges that you face on the way. So can you please share your experiences with, some of the bigger hurdles that you've encountered and how did you overcome them?
Sure. Speaking from personal experience, I guess the first time I switched industrial field is from traditional GI pricing to the broader field of data analytics. Not just insurance, can be finance or even outside of finance, telecom. I think like many young actuaries, much of my early work experience is in that very specific GI pricing area. And with that comes with a specific set of perspective, skills, and mindset. We're all familiar with the saying that when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And I think that was very true. When I first stepped away from insurance, every problem looks like a risk or pricing problem. So actually it took a long time for me to change my way of thinking and start to more actively pick up a broader set of skills. So really adding that repertoire of different tool sets to the GI pricing hammer I had. I guess that's the very first time I switched. I think that was by far the biggest challenge and hurdle, really about stepping away from area you are really comfortable with to something you genuinely do not know and have to learn how to deal with uncertainty and how to adapt quickly to a new, field, a new industry, and learn enough and combine with my existing expertise and knowledge to create commercial value.
Right. Okay. So it sounds like you're covering the culture shock that you experienced from entering a new field. Did you have a culture shock with just simply interacting with completely different people now, people with a non-actuarial background, or even let's say if you're working with data engineers, data scientists, they're very different background, very different language. How did you work with that?
All the time, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I had numerous examples. So I guess lately I was developing this solution, right? Trying to optimize conversations to augment it using AI to augment its contact center, right? So I had a team of data scientists, some of them actually very experienced. Now for them, they're very technical. Often they talk about using NLP to solve it that way and that way. AI can solve it all. But at the end of the day, when I ask them, okay, just think from customer's perspective, think from at the end of the day, just exactly how your solution will be used, step by step. Many issues come out, right? Error comes out. So to start with is so when working with technical people, I mean, I had to be a lot more commercially focused. I have to, in a way, take them along the journey, reinforce the vision, really from a end point of view, not just around vision being using AI because it's sexy, right? So with technical people, definitely that huge culture shock. I guess actuaries being sort of considered as technical people, But to be honest, we're not that pure technical compared to sort of pure data scientists, not engineers. And it's really sort of bringing that commercial lens into the team. That was sort of incredibly, I guess interesting and useful. And I guess a sort of a culture shock for me is around, hey, I'm an actuary. I'm supposed to be a technical one. How come I have to drive, sort of the team from a commercial lenses? And sort of second is around working with, really commercial people, much more than I am. So around the management consultants in BCG world. So now I've written slides with sort of I guess strategy and steps. I think it's quite appropriate. And now I've been told around that's not how I make slides. That's not how CEO think. This is all wrong, right? So on the reversely, like we're working with that sort of highly commercial and strategic people, almost have to sort of change my perspective as well, put a different set of hats on. So in that way, it's also sort of a bit of a cultural shock. You have to sort of I guess learn new skill sets, new approach in dealing with that. So I guess broadly speaking, it's also comes with changing industry, changing fields, is that you are dealing with non-actuaries anymore. Different industry, different, specialization, different. They all think differently, right? So it's a culture shock dealing with non-actuaries is almost guaranteed. It's about how you learn quickly to work with different kind of people to I guess like to in a way sort of firstly work with them in a way they are familiar with, and secondly bringing things uniquely I guess actuaries are very good at to add on to the way they do things.
Yeah, that's excellent. So other than that manager who kind of tapped you on the shoulder to tell you that that's not how you build slides, did you have any other key mentors or influential people who assisted you in the changing process?
Yes, I had I think a few, and
Mm.
I think there's one key mentor I had is my ex-manager. So the couple of things sort of he always challenges me on. So when he's around, he always asks me, "What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What do you actually want? What do you see yourself as?" So that was really helpful. And secondly, sort of he often asks me around, looking at people around you, right? Who do you want to become in 1 year's time or 2 years' time? All right, so those are sort of incredibly helpful. So I've always sort of taken sort of those advices and those sort of high-level principles, even when I sort of was sort of undergoing sort of big change in career or of industry. So I would sort of once first kind of look around, perhaps not just immediately within sort of my working circle, around sort of in a broad actuarial community, for example, who seems to have a similar experience to me, who I can learn from, and in a way reach out to them, whether it's second connection also, and ask for their advice. Right. So the first step is really around having that sort of lens on, around knowing that, hey, I'm not here alone. There are many people like me. I can sort of leverage their experience on, right? And really ask the question about what I want and who I want to become. And secondly, around very much once you have that sort of vision, have that sort of direction, it becomes much easier around just go out there, don't be shy. What I find is actuaries are incredibly friendly people, and then fellow actuaries come and ask for advice. They always say, yes, let's have a coffee. Let me talk you through what sort of useful things you should be knowing, how you should approach the problem you have.
Yeah. Okay. Now, one final question to wrap this all up. What one piece of advice would you give to people who would like to try out a different practice area or a new industry?
I would say, like just go for it. Like I actually had the same question from a young actuary with 2 years experience who was saying around, should I try a different industry? I've been in this thing for 2 years now. This could be my platform. The advice I give him is around, if you've been working for 10 years or so, yes, being a specialist expert in industry is important because that's how people see you. That's how you distinctly add value. But when you are a young actuary, it's important to experience different things, right? So the areas, the traditional area we work in, yes, we're very good at it. We've developed methodology that's important to be familiar and very good at. But looking broadly across other industries, there are things that insurance is very good at, right? There are things around actuaries not very good at. Increasingly, we talk about digital strategy, how we integrate digital AI into not just insurance, every single industry, right? I feel like there are a lot of lessons we can learn, a lot of other methodologies we can learn by stepping into the alternative industries. And second is around it trains you in solving new problems from principle. So if you once again, if you work in GI pricing all your life, that's perhaps have a very narrow perspective on things. That's what I found is like often when the world changes completely, often you have to adapt to that and come up with a new approach to things altogether. And we have a narrow perspective that really hinders. I feel like it really hinders your creative process. And so like overall, I'd say go for it. There's a lot of benefit, especially if you are a young actuary, especially if you know that the new opportunity in that sort of other industry you're thinking of is genuinely a very interesting problem you're so passionate about, and you feel like you really add on to your perspective, add on to your experience in this broader problem-solving skill.
Yeah, and I can, I would like to echo that sentiment as well from my own experience. Go for it. You don't have to. I know as actors we like to have the future measured out and such, but sometimes it's about taking that leap of faith. So thank you. That's all we have time for today. I hope everyone listening to this podcast has enjoyed this discussion. Please check out our Actuaries Institute podcast for more actuarial content. If you look at this and you have more questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to join our Young Actuaries LinkedIn group, and there's a link to this in the podcast description below. So do keep an eye on your inbox for emails and on the Institute's social media channels. Daniel, thank you very much for joining the podcast today.
Thank you, Garvin. Thanks for having me.
I'm Garvin Tso. Bye for now.